Hello everyone, I am Alyan and today we have very special guest Mr. Tony. Mr. Tony lives in Sydney, Australia. He works at a company called Digivizer and he has big business sell better online using social media. So welcome sir, how are you?
Good morning. Well, I should say good evening, good night. I'm well. It's big time difference, isn't it? Very difficult. But I'm
Yeah,
well, thank you.
thank you so much. So Mr. Tony, before moving on the question, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Mm. Go on. Sorry, Alan. I'm just setting up my computer here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was asking, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Myself, I'm an experienced enterprise software salesman, salesperson, and I started my career as a software engineer after spending a few years at university studying computer science and business information systems, all the way back in the late 1980s. That gives you an idea.
All right.
And yeah, I've spent my career helping people make sense of information and helping them get the best out of investments in software.
That's great. Thank you so much for your introduction, sir. So you grew up between Australian and Hungarian culture. How has that shaped your approach to building relationship in business and sales?
Well, having a mixed race background is great. In Australia, we really are a nation of immigrants, and there's a lot of multiculturalism thriving in our country. And I think having that cultural background with your family just gives you an early appreciation of the world and other cultures. So I didn't really see the world until I finished university. So I guess my first experience face to face with other cultures, including my Hungarian others' culture. My father's Australian, and my first experience was like a lot of Australians backpacking after university. Call it backpacking or gap year, and that's when I really got to see the world face to face. But in terms of sales and business, I think it's just really about being helpful, and being able to build relationships with people. I think having a broad knowledge and experience in the world just makes it easier to meet people and appreciate them and their needs.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer. So, sir, you attended Barcamp Sydney in 2008 when social media was still new. When did you first realize the internet would fundamentally change everything?
Yeah, a bar camp is an unconference. Yeah, in other words, instead of having a professional group of select presenters, everyone that attends gets to talk or present on their subject matter that they think would be helpful to other people, particularly in in technology, because everyone that would attend bar camp was an early adopter of technology. Excuse me. And in the it's so early here. It's so early here. I'm still rubbing my eyes. In the early days of social media, really, Twitter came out in 2006. Uh, Facebook shortly after Twitter, and then of course LinkedIn had already been around for a few years. So social media at the time was just about people sharing their knowledge and interests with others publicly, and being helpful and actually having real time conversations with people. And most of the people then were good, professional, experienced people, kind of slightly what I would describe as sort of nerdy or geeky, but in a good way, because they were always able to explain complex topics of interest, such as computers and social media. So anyway, the bar camp was a way to to uh, to learn from each other, not just the presenters. Anyway, so the internet was thriving by then, as far as business was concerned, but social media wasn't thriving. So it was really all about people and knowledge and sharing. It wasn't about marketing and selling. We all had jobs, and we were trying to understand how social media could help us with our jobs. And I found it really helpful for selling eventually.
All right, thank you so much for your answer, sir. So, if 18 years old Tony at Beverly College uh, could see your career today, what would surprise him most?
Ah, well, the opportunities that work your career gives you. When you grow up in Sydney, sometimes you are even not aware of how big Sydney is and where most Sydney-siders and people come from, what part of Sydney. So when what surprised me in my first jobs in Sydney, but actually my first jobs were overseas in London, particularly. But what surprises me was when I started my career, I was traveling immediately. My first job after doing the backpacking and the gap year was in London in information technology. In fact, it was the market research industry. But it surprised me that on my very first day in my first job, really, I was very young. I suppose I was 22, 23 at the time. It was actually in the sort of early 90s. And anyway, the first thing that I'm surprised about is how much traveling I did. My first day on the job, I flew from London to Brussels in Belgium, in Europe, and participated in training, software training. So what most people don't realise when they're finishing school and going to university is unexpected opportunities immediately start presenting themselves, and it's whether you take them or not, and just be open to massive change in your life.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So, enterprise software sales used to be associated with steak dinners and golf. What does modern enterprise selling look like in 2026?
Well, it looks very different to steak dinners and golf. I like the way you said that, because when I started really selling very large, complex software that now is part of IBM called Cognos, and before that, Dun and Bradstreet uh, information companies, when I was selling those in the 90s and early 2000s, the difference is then you would build relationships on the phone and you would go down and have meetings face to face. And we weren't really using social media or enterprise marketing tools and CRM systems, for example, in the early days. But that quickly changed. You would occasionally celebrate with your client a win. So if you got the deal, you might go and celebrate with dinner, but that didn't happen that often. It wasn't daily dinners, and that wasn't how it worked. It was always about people building relationships. And in the early days of software sales, you would have a team presenting, we used to call them proof of concept. If you're selling software to a bank or a telecommunications company or a large client, large enterprise, they need to see the proof of the concept of what they're buying. So we would actually spend a lot of time building working demonstrations using the client's own data to give them a real picture of the opportunity. And then, and now in 2026, we're all online. So we can build relationships online as well. And I think that's really important. So for example, LinkedIn was around in the early 2000s, and now it's become a content marketing opportunity for people to prove value online using their own content to explain their business and also their lives. And so you build trust in 2026 online more so than you used to in the early 2000s. Build trust by being face to face and bringing your team along into face to face meetings, which still happens. But before you get face to face, you're often already known in 2026 from your online presence. And that builds trust and relationships too.
Okay, thanks so much for your answer. So, sir, you have described yourself as a social seller before it become a mainstream term. What does the actually mean, and where do most salespeople still get it wrong?
Well, it actually means that social selling is using social networks, particularly LinkedIn now, as a way to build trust and relationships with people you haven't even met yet. So if you're selling to someone in an organization And you can use LinkedIn to share your value before you ask them to sign on the dotted line, the contract for the sale. So for example, you start connecting with people that you might want to sell to later, probably do want to sell to always, but before you ask for the sale, you're building, you're publishing content about yourself and the work you're doing, and improving value and building trust and an online reputation. And then when you speak to the prospect, you may get more attention from them than you would have if you didn't have an online presence. So the social selling aspect is that social is really sounds personal, but really it's about that online reputation that you've built by being helpful before you ask for the deal. And I think that's what's really changed. But as far as your question about how do salespeople today get it wrong, I think it's if they ask too soon or they cold call. Like cold calling is still somewhat important, but when people call me to sell to me, I immediately look at their LinkedIn profile to verify, who they are and what they're about. If they don't have that, I'm less likely to engage, or it will take me longer to engage. So people stand behind their companies that they work for. That's the brand, whereas actually there's a personal brand associated with that, because once you work with a solution that you've purchased, you also want to know who to talk to often. And so it's actually quite a problem for people and consumers when they have problems with Facebook or Google. They find it difficult to actually talk to people. But in those examples, Google and Facebook is kind of free for us to use, when in fact, we're being advertised and sold to all the time. So Facebook is doing that and not providing one-to-one sort of support. And it always makes me laugh when people expect to use a free product or service and then be able to pick up the phone and call someone. So it's interesting. But I think salespeople get it wrong today by not putting a little bit of time, as little as 15 minutes a day, into sharing their value online, particularly now with LinkedIn's content marketing side.
All right, thank you so much for your wonderful answer. So, sir, as advisor, you have worked with enterprise like Lenovo and IMB Bank as well as startup. What is one universal truth about marketing that applies across all of them?
Yes, I certainly worked with Lenovo. IMB Bank, Lenovo is over probably 15 years now, and we're still working with them. In IMB Bank, that's a more recent client that I didn't work on the execution side of working with that client, but thanks for mentioning it, because Digivisor is a fantastic company, which of course I'm biased because I work with them. It's a very underrated service they provide. So they're providing great value in their content, on their LinkedIn page, on their socials, and worth looking at to see as an enterprise what is the value of the data, particularly social media data and search engine performance, Google and so forth. You want to look at all that performance on your brand, and Digivisor wraps that all around in a dashboard and a reporting system to help guide and provide strategies to improve advertising performance, as well as your own online reputation performance and your own brand's performance. Anyway, the universal truth about marketing, the universal truth is kind of what we're already talking about. Marketing is really not just advertising. It's building value and trust about your brand before people even buy. And the universal truth, I guess now, is we used to call it service as a sales channel. By providing exceptional services, it's a sales channel for you, because you're proving yourself as you go. You'll sell more because you become more trusted by being helpful and providing great service, even before they buy. Being helpful is the easiest thing, because marketing really is just about being helpful, giving people a chance to invest in you by explaining to them easily online what you're about and why it's good value to invest in that solution.
Yeah, thanks so much for your answer. So, sir, you have referenced where saying your big data is worthless if you don't bring it. How would you complete that sentence today? What is the missing ingredient company still ignores?
I wonder how long ago that was. Wired magazine, still around, isn't it? But it's so popular in the 90s and late 80s, I think, as well. But the big data has kind of moved on to sort of analytics, data analytics. In other words, a lot of data is worthless unless it becomes information and it's transformed from data or raw data, lots of information that could be useful. Then you need to sort of have a means of creating value from the data. So what I guess is your big data is worthless if you don't bring it to life by adding value to big data or raw data by using computer technology like analytics, business analytics software. And from that, you then get to sort of reporting useful data or information of great value to you. But you need help along the way to go from that. So that's how I would complete the sentence, that you need to bring the big data to life by doing those things, amongst other things. The missing ingredient is, large enterprises have technology teams that are doing this work to bring big data or lots of data to life, but they need help from service providers like Digivisor. And depending on the team that you're using data in, marketing teams love Digivisor because the data has been brought to life in a way that helps inform their business strategy, particularly in marketing and advertising. That's the missing ingredient, having a partner, a solution that you've purchased as a company that's going to be a partner, not just a one-off, buy this and good luck. No, buy this and we'll help you make the most of it.
Okay, thanks so much for your answer. So with AI now generating content, replies, and at its social selling, still fundamentally human, or are we automating away its core value?
We're not automating it away, we're enhancing its value. And it's a big difference. Automating away suggests we don't need to be personally and humans involved. We'll always be involved. But things such as AI and its development into this agentic AI, meaning agents like assistants working with you, making 1 + 1 = 3. As a human, you can kind of be doing more work in less time using AI, but it needs to be managed. And you can't just set and forget. In terms of social selling, that is fundamentally human. AI is kind of easy to spot. You see videos now that seem funny, but really they're AI generated. And that can also work in terms of a brand building exercise. But a lot of people are really using AI to automate what they used to do manually to give them more time to focus on the human side. In enterprise software sales, AI might help, just like email marketing helps now and still helps, sending emails, but it might automate responses to emails that have analyzed if your prospect or client is asking for support. AI can automate all of that, giving more time for the humans to provide better services. If that makes sense.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So, sir, through Push Start and Launch 48, you have mentored many startups. What is the one piece of advice?
Well, those terms coming from my LinkedIn profile, thank you for studying that. Push Start and Launch 48 were all about becoming an entrepreneur within your own, startup, tech startup or business startup. And Push Start was getting mentoring to help startups in areas that the mentor are specialists in, such as in my case, social media and marketing. And Launch 48 was similar to Push Start, where a bunch of early stage startups would come together again with mentors invited to it was kind of like an elevator pitch. We had 10 mentors. One was marketing, one was a software engineer, one was financial advice and so forth, helping these companies. And a lot of the people that organize these mentoring events, we're already working hard in corporations and small to medium to large enterprises. And they they become entrepreneurs within the own enterprise. The outcome for the large enterprises providing services like this is brand awareness, such as a bank or a telco investing in helping startups, which adds value to the brand, the enterprise's own reputation by providing and investing in helping people and helping startups. What is one piece of advice founders consistently ignore and regret later? Well, I think one of the things that I've seen in entrepreneurs and their startups is the feeling that if you build it, they will come. In other words, if you build it and release it quickly, the opposite. If they build their startup and don't release it until they think it's ready, so they might spend 6 to 12 months building an app or a service or something new in terms of software that's going to help people, but they don't release it because they don't think it's ready. But really what they want to do is release it quickly, get the idea out there and get feedback from the users fast so that you can improve. Because if you think the solution has to be right before it's released, you could fail because what if it's not everything that the customers want? You might have missed something. So why don't you get the feedback along the way and then make your startup offering absolutely shine and be more successful by sort of iterating its development. And of course, with Amazon and other hosting companies, you can constantly release updates to your software. And so as the feedback loop continues, you're improving what you're offering. So that's an ignored piece of advice because a lot of founders just wait. They don't release soon. I guess they're a bit nervous. It's their little baby. They don't want to put it out in the world. They should. And they can regret that. So that's the main piece of advice I would give for that.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, sir. My next question is, if you could keep only one social media platform and deleting the rest, which one would be you choose and why?
Well, I don't think I would do that in today's thinking, because we've got so many platforms, haven't we? TikTok, Snapchat still going, X, aka Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. What have I missed? I think in business, LinkedIn, of course, because LinkedIn is like the business Facebook. You could probably, it depends. I mean, I think Facebook is absolutely essential for business too, especially for marketing. But LinkedIn, as a social seller, as someone selling at the big end of town, so to speak, enterprise software is definitely the one to keep. But I think having Facebook connections with your friends and family and work colleagues and clients is also important. So it'd be hard to delete them all, but I'd start with keeping LinkedIn. It'd be hard to get rid of Twitter, X, wouldn't it? Because X provides so much value in the conversations that are still happening. What a tough question, Alyan. You've really got me there. The rest, which would you choose? I think I actually spend most time on Instagram. And I mentioned Instagram's very good for business. Instagram I used to call the new Twitter, the visual Twitter, back when it released in sort of 2010. It'd be a tough one to delete Instagram or to delete LinkedIn. Yeah, I'd still delete Instagram because you can post content in LinkedIn of value too and build relationships. But a lot of people I meet, especially in smaller business, they don't use LinkedIn. It seems to be only the large enterprises and the people within them that use LinkedIn. I don't think that's correct. So there you go, LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So, sir, my last question is, when you eventually step away from executive roles, what legacy do you want to leave in the Sydney tech and sale community?
Tech and sales community in Sydney. Well, it's a huge community now, and I'd recommend your listeners go to Facebook and look at the Sydney Startups Facebook group. There's 10,000 people in there helping other entrepreneurs. The legacy I want to leave is just sort of being helpful. I'm a connector. I like to meet people, connect, and help. And eventually business can come from that, but not initially. I think being helpful is the key to this. The legacy I want to leave is, oh, Tony was so helpful and he knows so much about tech or food, or he knows more than I do. Let's ask him. I actually called my business Ask Tony as a personal branding exercise, but really the legacy, and I think most people can learn from being helpful online, sharing your knowledge. Don't be afraid to give away your knowledge and experience. A lot of people are afraid. They want to hold their information and knowledge and contacts to themselves. I don't think that's right. The way forward, the way to success.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Tony. It was a pleasure talking with you today, and to our listener, thank you for turning in. See you next time. Thank you again, Mr. Tony, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alyan. I appreciate your patience waiting for me to come to this meeting. I look forward to another one anytime. We'll try. As you have a whole new set of questions, feel free to ask.
Will do, definitely. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Hey,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.